literally, as our intro is playing, I get a notification on our soundboard of what we use to record and upload to our podcasting platforms. It says SD card, it has limited capacity available. So we'll see how this goes. Good morning, everybody. It is a happy and joyous day. It's another belt giveaway day. We are thrilled to join you wherever you might be, in your car, in your homes, in your living rooms, wherever you may roam. My name is Alex. To my left is Cole. Again, this is the Going Broadway podcast. Thanks for joining us and hanging out with us this morning. Cole, what's going on? You weren't here Monday.
Man, I was so bummed to miss Monday. And just to sum it all up, I was taking my sister to a MRI appointment for her. She broke her elbow, and at the very end of it, she never even got the MRI. Frustrating. That's why I logged on at the close to the middle half to end of the show. I was like, I could have been here.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I can relate though, because just my wife has had some neck and shoulder issues because she's been rear-ended on 2 different occasions in 2 separate vehicles over the last 3 years, and so she's had a lot of in and out of doctors and them telling her one thing and not fulfilling what they say they're going to do, and it's like all that kind of flashed back. And so anyway, shout out to everybody that is lighting up our comments. I'm just going to do a blanket good morning to everybody. I did see somebody ask, Matthew, why are you holding my belt over your shoulder? Because this belt does not belong to anybody yet.
Hey, calm down, Oscar. My goodness.
But yeah, we are going to do our belt giveaway during today's show. It is going to be a fun, happy, joyous show, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention the unfortunate passing of Shad Gaspard. Again, our thoughts, prayers, and condolences are with his family at this time. There's no way to make light of it in any way, shape, or form, but if there's any, for lack of a better word, consolation, it's that they did find him. So there's at least closure in that regard. Again, it doesn't make it, I don't want to say it makes it any better, but at the same time, there'd always be a question if they hadn't found him, maybe he got swept out to sea and landed on an island or something. And I know that sounds silly, but I mean,
crazier things have happened.
Exactly. So
it's very sad.
But again, thoughts and prayers and condolences out to his family. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, Crime Time was a very underrated tag team. If you were watching at the time, they were skilled in the ring. I'm surprised that they didn't have more of a push than what they got. And I don't know if it was because of their gimmick persona, if they didn't want to put them in a prime spot because of their name is Crime Time. But,
right.
At the same time, they were good in the ring. I'm surprised they didn't get more of a push than what they got. So
I read this morning that they were looking to bring them two back for a feud with New Day.
Really?
So it's very sad to hear that.
I did not know that. That's the first I'm hearing of that.
Because Shad was doing movies and stuff, and his schedule just wasn't lining up for what they wanted.
I knew they were still doing wrestling appearances, like conventions. They would have matches every so often. I did not know that WWE was possibly bringing them back. That does make it more unfortunate.
It's very sad.
But again, our thoughts and prayers and condolences are with his family. He went out saving his son so that his son could continue to live and have a life. And so there is, in my opinion, no greater way to give up your life if it is for sacrificing your own life for someone else's, especially if it's your family's. So all that being said, just one second, guys. My soundboard was doing something weird. All that being said, We do have a show to do, but we do want it to be fun, uplifting, because it is a good day. It's a fun day. One of you guys that, or girls that are on our page, one of our first 3,000 Facebook likes, will be winning a belt today. So before then, we do have a show to do. So hang out with us for a little while. We'll do our belt giveaway later in the show. If this is also your first time watching us, let us know. We like to give special shout-outs to our first-time viewers. Usually, for our first-time viewers, what our show format, if we'll call it that, we'll usually kick off things by mentioning a few wrestling headlines of the day. Today won't be any different. There are a few things I wanted to bring up, but I also wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. So, number one, if this is your first time watching us, let us know that you're here so we can get you a proper shout out. Number two is we're going through these articles and stories and such. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. We read comments on the air quite frequently, and so yeah, let's just get right to it. So I actually saw this story. Might have been as early as this past weekend, but some more of the reputable, I guess I'll call it that, wrestling sites have kind of picked up on it. So there's speculation that good old Vinnie Mac is trying to restart the XFL. Have you heard this?
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
So basically, the situation is XFL's creditors, if you want to call them that, they seem to think that Vince McMahon is trying to essentially buy his XFL out of a bankruptcy court. And by the way, this is from a new report from The Athletic. So The Athletic is a very reputable source. So as we all know, the league shut down back in, what do we call it, April? I think it was early April when they shut down. So they shut down. They went into bankruptcy, blaming the COVID-19 impact, which is understandable. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm ripping on that. So there's a report that XFL president Jeffrey Pollock continues to draw a salary to this day and has reportedly called venues in Seattle and St. Louis, which is where we broadcast out of. We are in the Metro East St. Louis area on the Illinois side. He's reportedly called venues in Seattle and St. Louis to ask about reinstating lease agreements. So one former team official who passed on the tips to St. Louis and Seattle to The Athletic speculated that the bankruptcy filing and league shutdown in April may have been a quote-unquote cutthroat, there we go, finance ploy by Vince to ride out the coronavirus pandemic without having to pay the cost of operating the league. So in essence, keep the league going without having to, without having the day-to-day expenses. So a representative for Visit St. Louis, which is the group that oversees the Dome at America Center, which is where our St. Louis Battlehawks play, they confirmed to The Athletic that Pollock recently asked about the lease there. A committee of a committee of unsecured creditors objected to Alpha Entertainment's proposal to pay $3.5 million in-season ticket refunds and a series of court filings this past Tuesday, speculating that the league is only paying season ticket holders for games that they didn't get as a way to ensure goodwill to Vince McMahon for if and when he returns to the XFL. The committee also questioned why XFL headquarters in Stamford, which is across the street from WWE headquarters, is still open and executives like Pollock are still drawing salaries. A spokesperson hired by the XFL was asked about the possibility of Vince filing for bankruptcy protection to restart the league, and they wrote back, quote-unquote, the response to this filing will speak for itself. I find this it's definitely got some traction as far as being legitimate. I don't think it paints a very good picture for Vince McMahon. I mean, he's already kind of in, I'll call it hot water. I don't even want to call it that. His business reputation has really taken a hit since this XFL bankruptcy thing. I think this is just going to make it worse. Your thoughts on this, my friend?
I don't know.
If any.
I'm at the place right now where, like, do it. I really don't care if they do or don't do it. You know, it's kind of like this is the second go around with it.
Technically, this would be the third if he get back going.
Right, that's
again.
what I said. We just had the second go around of it. It intrigued me. I watched one or two of the Battlehawk games here, and it was interesting. Like I wouldn't not watch it, but I wasn't becoming like a fan of it, if that makes sense.
Right.
To the point that I was like, let me go get my jersey, and like it didn't capture me like that.
Sure.
It was more just like there was intrigue there. One, because of the fact that Vince McMahon was involved.
Sure.
Two, I am a huge football fan, so just trying to see some of the guys who aren't in the NFL that were in this was interesting as well. But I'm not really sold that it needs to come back. So I mean, if they go for it, go for it. I think there'll be a handful of people who are still very unimpressed with the NFL and how things are handled there and the choices and decisions they make and whatnot. So I still think there's going to be, just like the wrestling business, as soon as a valuable competitor comes in, people are ready to not necessarily jump ship, but ready to try something else out and try something else new, which is why I think AEW does so well.
Agreed.
Is because WWE for so long was lackluster, and it makes them have to perform for real.
Agreed. I mean, WWE was on cruise control for the longest time because they virtually had no competition. I mean, guys,
not a threat to them.
Exactly. I mean, you could say that when I say competition, like Cole said, I mean like somebody that is a threat to essentially compete with WWE. I get that for a while, Impact / TNA, as it were at the time, as it was at the time, I should say, they had a great talent pool. They had good matches, but they never had.
There was a short period of time where I believed maybe if they would continue to trend in the right direction, but they just never had that like catapulting moment that AEW has had to shoot them over to the top. Like, okay, this could happen.
Agreed. And I guess the fact of the matter is Vince doesn't like to. He doesn't like to be defeated if he can help it. So I look at this as a way of McMahon just, really just I don't want to say grasping at straws because that's not the right analogy. He is hanging by any thread that he possibly can to keep the XFL going because he doesn't want to be seen as not only a one-time failure, but a failure on multiple occasions with the same venture. So again, I think there is a lot of legitimacy to this. And if you guys are just tuning in, we're discussing the fact that the XFL could possibly be brought back a third time. I won't go into the full article again, but essentially Vince McMahon has gone through bankruptcy proceedings as a means to try to get out of the day-to-day expenses. So the XFL president is receiving a salary currently, or I should say allegedly receiving a salary. There have been inquiries into the lease agreements in Seattle and St. Louis, and so, but the fact that the Athletic picked up on this makes it that in it. Eddie Williams, if you're watching, that was my word vomit for the day. That in of itself makes it legitimate. Anytime the Athletic runs a story, it's going to be legit. So
I would say bringing the XFL back is like bringing James Ellsworth back for the third time. It doesn't sound good, but hey, it might bring down a Money in the Bank briefcase. It might have like a good moment.
Yeah,
that's what comes to my mind. Like
a single good moment, like maybe
it might have a shot.
All right, guys. As promised, I'm going to go back and read some of your comments here, and
a lot of first time viewers.
I know. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's see. Man, you guys are fantastic. Let's see. Costaba says, my first time with both of you together. So Costaba was a first-time viewer this past Monday. Chris Ishler, first time. Thanks for tuning in. Jeffrey Capo, first time. Stephanie Badeau, I apologize if I'm butchering your name, first time. Dustin Williams, first time. Stacy Hernecki, I apologize if I butcher any of your guys' names. Mickey Gray, first time. Tom Bond, first time. T. King Pirelli, Stephen DeMercurio. Again, I'm sincerely sorry if I'm mispronouncing your guys' names. Lloyd Nicolette, first time. Joey Carpio, first time being able to listen from the start. Awesome. Let's see. Gabriel Ryer, first time. Antoine Roberson, first time. You guys are fantastic. Eddie Verlander, I'm also in the Metro East. Let us know where you're from, buddy. Your SD card is full. Recording has stopped. That's all right. The good news is you can still see us on Facebook and YouTube, and whenever this does go on Apple and Google Podcasts, they can just pull the audio from that. So not a big deal. Let's see. Andrew says XFL needs to be in cities that don't have NFL teams. I mostly agree with that. It's going to be hard to. The NFL is in how many cities? There's 32 NFL teams. You got a few teams that are
doubled up.
Yeah, you got LA, you've got New York. I think those are the only two. You
have two in Texas. I bet.
Yeah. There's still options out there though. St. Louis is one of them. You're gonna have places like Oklahoma City, Portland, Oregon,
Kentucky.
Well,
Kentucky doesn't have any
Kentucky doesn't really have
Kentucky basketball for college, and that's
that's a little different. But no, I to some extent agree. There are places they could go. There's Dayton, Ohio. If long term though, if they're going to be an entity and they're going to have more than just the 8 teams, they're going to have to be in cities that the NFL is in as well, because there's just not. Let's say the NFL has, what do we say? 25 cities, 25 metro areas. There's not going to be another 25 specifically for the XFL. There's just not that many metro areas out there, at least that would be capable of, the stadium that they would want and all the logistical aspects of it. James said, would be cool if the XFL and NFL had promotion and relegation that would make it work. It would be cool, but that's never going to happen unless Roger Goodell buys the XFL or something like that. Again, a blanket good morning out to everybody that has tuned in. We have not done our belt giveaway yet. So continue to hang out with us. We'll do that later in the show. Clayton says, yes, I agree. This is a bad look for the XFL. Cody says, waste of time to come back. Let's see. Mikey says, you can't really count this go around, though. If it wasn't for the virus, it would have really taken off, was having a really good first season. Yeah, I really don't know. I could see it being either way to me. So I work in the finance world, and this podcast isn't, as far as my job goes, this podcast is probably 10% of it. The other 90% I work in finance, accounting, and all that stuff. So it's really difficult for me to fathom the fact that even with this COVID-19 stuff, that just a single month of that drove them into bankruptcy. To me, there had to have been something else going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. Let's see. Steven says he needs to put the money into the WWE because it's been on a downhill spiral now. XFL. This is a great point. Lynn says XFL needs to be like the NHL and have a few Canadian teams. I would be all for that. Because if you throw Canada in there, you've got another few metro areas that the NFL hasn't touched, which I'm really surprised. You've got Toronto, you've got Vancouver, you've got Montreal. It's just, Calgary. There are a few that I'm not even thinking of. So that's a great point, Lynn. I'd be all for that. Let's see, guys. And by the way, let's see. Chris High, first-time viewer. Philip Mosteller, first time watching. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out. I appreciate it. one thing real quick, guys, since we've got a pretty good viewing on here, we do try to keep our social media platforms clean and free of vulgar language and profanity, but we especially do that with our show and the chat stream. So if you could please, let's keep our chat stream clean, free of profanity, no vulgarness. So I'd appreciate it. Let's see. Jerry says, are people in St. Louis still Rams fans? There are still a few, believe it or not.
A lot of them transitioned into Chiefs fans, especially with the Super Bowl win. So
yeah, there are a lot of bandwagon people that jumped on that one pretty quick. Let's see. Shawn says, is that belt he has the one they're giving away? Yes, this winged eagle is what we will be giving away later in the show. It is a dual-plated winged eagle, and I'll show you guys close-ups later whenever we do give it away. Selvin says, do you think the XFL is really better this time? I think before the pandemic, it did seem like on paper that they were learning from their prior mistakes, and it was a legit league that they tried to initiate different rules from the NFL. They tried to make it unique, and again, I appreciated that. I was all for that. So we have a few people, I think, mentioning metro areas that the NFL isn't in. Columbus, Ohio. Steven says Las Vegas. That's where the Raiders are going to be, actually. Ryan says Akron. I don't know if Akron's how big of a metro area that is. Again, there are bigger cities that would be options if they had a big enough stadium to accommodate, the tens of thousands of fans that they're wanting. Trying to pack in maybe a college arena that only a few thousand can hold. I don't think that the XFL. I don't think that's what they're going for. So, all right, guys, let's transition to another topic here. Gotta pull it up. And I apologize, my computer is being a little bit slow. I don't like the whole dead air time thing, but this morning my computer is not being very cooperative. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. Cole, have you seen the little social media debate between Leo Rush and Mark Henry?
I have not.
So
how did I miss that?
Well, it's nothing that's groundbreaking, I'll call it, but essentially they're kind of like ripping each other on social media, and it's to me it's a moot point from the perspective that Mark Henry has done so much for the wrestling business.
Yeah.
I don't even care what Leo Rush is saying. Even this is my opinion on it. If you guys are watching, whether you agree, disagree, share with me your perspective and your thoughts on this. But Mark Henry has done so much for the wrestling business that even if Leo Rush has any sort of ground to stand on, maybe that's not the right analogy, but whatever is going on with their beef, if Leo Rush has any point whatsoever, I don't care what it is, to be quite honest, because what has Leo Rush done for this business compared to Mark Henry? Leo Rush Leo Rush is no longer in the wrestling business. He's actually said that he's done. He's quitting or has quit. He was here for a cup of coffee and a cruiserweight title run. He had a small run with Bobby Lashley, and that was it. So whatever's going on with them, I'll be honest, I'm not going to get into it too much because I think it's It's kind of like racially based in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to get into that part of it. But the fact that he thinks he has any ground to stand on when it comes to the wrestling business with Mark Henry, who, by the way, is still in the wrestling business. I mean, he's on Busted Open Radio. He's a WWE alumnus. He'll still do WWE appearances. Leo Rush just needs to go off into the sunset, if I can even call it that, and do his movies or whatever he thinks he's going to do, his rap career, whatever. But anyway.
So was it based off of a wrestling argument, though? I need to go look this up.
Yeah, you can look it up, and if anybody there is watching me or watching us, let me know if you know the basis of the argument. I just, I think some of it is racially based in the sense that, like, Mark Henry formed this black wrestlers group or something like that. I could be totally off base saying this, but I guess something like Leo Rush wasn't included. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I didn't delve in or dive into it too much. To me, it was just like.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I am definitely interested and now want to go check it out.
The way I looked at it is, regardless of whatever it is, like, Leo Rush is not even in the wrestling business anymore. And for what Mark Henry has done for his tenure in the wrestling business, I'll call it that, Leo Rush can just shut his mouth for all I'm concerned. Now, here's another part of it. They've kind of gone back and forth and, threatened defamation lawsuits against each other. To that point, I'm just like, all right, guys, it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, just, one of you guys is going to have the last word, and you're just going to have to live with it.
The other one's going to end up in the Hall of Pain.
Yeah.
I mean.
So, let's see. I'm going to read some comments real quick here. I want to answer this question that Andrew asked. He asked, do you consider Savage the first holder of that belt or Hogan? Hulk did come to the ring with it at the main event before the twin ref angle. So, and this is kind of a longer answer than you probably wanted. This particular belt, I would consider Hogan the first holder of it because the version that Hogan came out with is what I would call the WrestleMania 4 version. The WrestleMania 4 version of the Winged Eagle had where this heavyweight banner is. This was not painted. This was all gold. There were some other things like these sidebars were shorter. There was on the belt tip here. On this belt tip, there were like relief diamonds on it. Like this nameplate actually said WWF Hulk Hogan on it. Just some other subtle differences, but this version with the longer sidebars, the heavyweight banner painted black on the inside, I would technically consider Hulk Hogan to be the first holder of this particular version. That's kind of a nerdy belt answer, but that's my answer. Jesse said XFL rules seem to speed up things, but the pay was pathetic, and unless someone big name came, they were done. Rick Harvey said, did Corny ever respond? No, he did not, and I don't expect him to, which is fine. Ryan says Akron/Canton has the Hall of Fame and has a massive stadium. Yeah, I mean, if they have a big enough stadium, again, I would be all for XFL going where NFL isn't at presently. But inevitably, I think there's just going to be too many cities unless they include Canada to go. There's just going to be too much. There's not enough. There's not enough ground. There's not enough metro areas spread out in the United States to where XFL can go where the NFL isn't presently. There's not 50 some metro areas that would have stadiums to go with XFL's vision, in my opinion, of having tens of thousands of fans. And there's also logistics you guys got to remember as far as traffic and things like that. So, let's see. James says, in South Korea, originally from Boston. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. Andrew says, Mark Henry is a total bootlicker and would defend the WWE regardless. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, it's Leo Rush. I mean, again, what has Leo Rush done, not just for WWE, for the business period? I'm not in any way necessarily defending WWE. I'm not defending Mark Henry necessarily. I'm just saying, who is Leo Rush to say what he is, saying as far as anybody that's been in the wrestling business for the amount of time that Mark Henry has been. Kevin says, Leo who? Cody says, I agree. Who is Leo Rush to go on? Yeah, Costaba says, I don't know. I think Rush is looking for attention now that he's been released. Yeah, and I think that's all it is too.
He has like an Enzo Amore kind of approach. Like he's trying to capitalize on being let go by like bashing and almost trying to fight with anybody possible on social media. It wouldn't shock me if he ends up at a house show trying to promote his mixtape.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, guys, shout out to you all for watching us live. Right now, we are over 100 live viewers at one time. That's the first time we've hit that mark. So, once again, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. We have a lot of comments saying, who's Leo Rush? He needs to go back to the Indies. Let's see. Brian says, I met Mark Henry at a hotel in Virginia. A nice guy, very respectful. Let's see. Lloyd says, Rush didn't understand how WWE works. Let's see. Brett says, Hogan/Andre/DiBiase/Savage, to be fair. Exactly. Whenever you go back to the origins of the Winged Eagle, it did that sequence is correct. William says that belt totally reminds me of Savage since the design never changed while he had it and fit him well. So Savage did actually hold this version, but that was after he beat Flair at WrestleMania 8. By that point, the banner had been painted different. So, yeah, I won't go into that again. Brian says, Vince McMahon needs to retire. Love him as a person from a business standpoint, but his decisions have been reckless. Lynn makes another good point. My understanding is that Leo had issues backstage, and Mark pulled him aside and said, this is how we deal with things, but in a respectful way. Possibly. I do know he had issues backstage, but I didn't know he had anything in particular with Mark Henry. Andrew says, I only want nerdy answers. Thank you. You are very welcome. Any questions as it relates to belts, you're going to get a nerdy answer. So Brian says, a little late. No worries, man. I appreciate you tuning in. If you guys can't join us as soon as we go live, not a problem. Just tune in whenever you can. Shawn says, I do not like today's belt. AEW belt does look better. WWE titles all look cheap now. Do you agree? Short answer, yes. for the most part. The only belt, and I know we're kind of getting off track here, but you know what? I was pretty much done talking about Leo Rush and Mark Henry anyway, so it's not a big deal. The only WWE belt that I really care for is the NXT UK tag belts. Those are sweet looking, but any others are just kind of like, at best, to me. What do you think? I've kind of done a lot of the talking. I'll give the floor to you.
They're obviously catering to a new generation, I feel like, with how they design their belts. The way the belts used to look and how they look now, they just have a different, I guess, pop to them. It looks a little bit more, I guess, trendy is the word I'm looking for. They're looking for something that just catches your eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I feel like the Universal title looks the way it does. The NXT championship, actually, the standard one, is a kind of an eye catcher. I think that's why they did the Fiend belt the way they did it. They're just looking for something that's going to get your attention, and I feel like a lot of the belts kind of almost look very similar though because of that. Like they keep kind of going with the same kind of setups and models, and
right,
they don't really venture out. Alex has a pretty decent collection over the years that he's shown me pictures and stuff of. So looking back at a lot of belts, they just don't make them like they used to.
Oh, 100%. No, I mean, they don't. And it's not just one of those things where, watching now, to your point, there could be 4, 5, 6-year-olds out there that were like me and watching wrestling for the first time and look at some of these belts and just like, oh, that would be sweet to have one of those. And that's understandable because this is going to sound bad, but they don't know any better. I mean, they don't know the difference between WWE's belts. You've got the world title and the universal title look similar. They're just on different colored straps. The 2 tag titles look the same. They're just on different straps. It's like there's not any originality at this point. And even bringing in a new Intercontinental belt, it's like that thing, in my opinion, is par at best. I would say subpar. I mean, it's just it's not good, and it gives me less hope for whenever hopefully they do replace that atrocity that's the United States belt that they're currently using, which, by the way, is the longest tenured belt that they have, which in of itself is surprising because I thought it's been hideous since day one.
I almost feel like it's because they don't care about that belt though anymore. Like
which is sad.
It's sad because the mid-card belts, like we've talked about this before, the mid-card belts just aren't treated like they used to be.
No.
Getting that, and they even cut promos where guys are like, I want that belt because it's the pathway to being one of the greats. But is it? Because like a lot of these guys have held that belt 8, 9 times and only been champion once or twice.
Yeah. And it's really sad. I mean, throughout the history of wrestling, I mean, it's always been associated with the Intercontinental title and the United States title when it was in NWA, WCW, that those were the workhorse titles. Like if you were the worker in the company, Intercontinental title especially, those were your belts until you were propelled to the world title picture. And it's just sad that, the designs that they have been using and have come out with recently, none of them are good. But I was saying it gives me even less hope that whenever they do bring a new United States belt into the picture, which has been rumored for quite some time, actually probably for a better part of a year at this point by now, I just don't have much hope that it's going to be any better than the one they currently have. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but that was a very, very long-winded answer to whoever's question that was. Let's see. Shawn says NWA has brought back the old style. Yeah, that's the one thing I like about NWA. They have their domed globe. They've got the old school television title. They're using the really old school Mid-Atlantic United States croc strap version for their NWA national title. They've got the old school NWA casted tag belts. So I do like the older versions of belts. Let's see. Yeah, Clayton says U.S. used to have so much prestige to it. Robert says, I remember when the mid-card belt was the workhorse belt. Exactly. Jason says, best IC belt in history was Kurt Hennig's IC title belt. Chris says, the new Intercontinental belt isn't bad, not as nice as the classic design, but it's a lot better than the Universal and WWE Championship. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. It's just, I think it was very underwhelming, and I was disappointed when they came out with it, mainly because they didn't need a new Intercontinental design. They needed a new United States design, and that's, I think, what people were hoping for and clamoring for. Jesse says, I would totally take a trophy like the ones they used to give Flair in Japan. Those were huge. Yeah, that's one thing I liked about the old Japan days is that winners of matches would get these, like, 10-foot tall, maybe not that high, 8-foot tall trophies. And, I just wish in general wrestling would bring back some of these, old school traditions, if you want to call them that. Andrew says, I prefer the red WWF logo IC strap. Yeah, that's the one that Savage had, one that Ricky Steamboat had. Billy says, what is the oldest belt? I'm not sure that's a very open-ended question. So I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. If you're saying what's the oldest belt that is currently being used, probably the NWA Dome Globe. That's not that particular belt, but that style or that design's been around since the early 80s. So, all right. As much as I love talking about belts, I wanted to bring up one more quick story. So, have any of you guys watched the 10-part documentary on Michael Jordan on ESPN? I'll be honest, I have not watched very much of it. And I really wanted to. From day one, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch every single one of these whenever they air, and I just haven't. But it says, during an interview with TMZ, Eric Bischoff revealed that he actually encouraged Dennis Rodman to be more physical with Karl Malone during the 1998 NBA Finals. Now, keep in mind, this is when Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone had kind of this working relationship with WCW. So Bischoff said, now, what I said to Dennis, not to Karl, was, hey, Dennis, if anything were to happen off court while there's a timeout, while there's no gameplay, so that the feud between Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman is real on a kind of a 360-degree basis, not just what happens on our TV show, that wouldn't make me mad at all. So he went on to add, I chuckled like a little kid because it accomplished so much as a wrestling producer to be able to create a moment that played out on a platform so huge as the NBA playoffs was really satisfying. So I found that really interesting, that the little mix-up between Malone and Rodman, if you guys remember that at all, was actually part of a wrestling storyline. And that's kind of what I miss about wrestling today, is that there's not wrestlers mixing it up on social media is I'm not counting that. What I'm missing is wrestlers or talent, I'll call it that. You know, if you've got celebrity talent that are feuding or whatever, continuing these storylines outside of their normal TV, outside of, the normal, whether they're live or if they're taped. That's one thing I want to see more of. And I don't think that really any company right now does enough of that. Again, I'm excluding social media. I'm excluding any kind of arguments that happen on Twitter or whatever. I want to see, somebody like I'm just trying to think, someone like a Drew McIntyre maybe doing a PR appearance, but then, getting blindsided, by, and this is a terrible example because I hate this feud. I won't go into it just because this feud's already been done. But, if Drew McIntyre is doing a PR appearance but then gets blindsided by Bobby Lashley or something like that, even to add to the angle, maybe Drew McIntyre gets color. For those of you that don't know, that means basically bleeds. Something like that to make it seem more real, more intense.
It's kind of strange because specifically WWE is almost more taking the approach of showing the non-kayfabe side of wrestlers outside of the ring.
Right.
Because you watch all these like kind of reality type shows or documentary type shows and stuff they have on the network, and you see the other side of wrestlers. Like I thought it was very interesting with all the COVID stuff that went down. Like AJ Styles was doing a little podcast thing from his house, and he was clearly breaking kayfabe,
right,
while doing that. But then the very next week he's on the show playing heel, and it's like, okay, and you kind of look at that as you go, and you've seen that with a lot of wrestlers, specifically in WWE, like Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. They still do. They do like a YouTube channel with like a vlog type setup,
right?
And they're definitely not in personas. They're like, Zelina's not acting like a heel. Aleister's not acting like some, something out of hell. Like they're just normal people sitting there on the couch being married, and so a lot of times now it seems like they're playing off of real life in this, even with the Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins baby thing. Like, I was curious if they were going to mention that Seth Rollins is the dad or not on air, and surely they did. They mentioned it and whatnot, but then they want to act like Lana and Rusev aren't really still married in real life and put her in a relationship with Bobby Lashley.
Yeah,
it's kind of inconsistent in nature, but a lot of times now they just keep the story for the air, and then they actually show you the real people behind the characters as if it was any other TV show. But wrestling is so important to keep the kayfabe story alive. That builds the essence of it. And you just don't see that anymore. Now it's really about making sure that these are just wrestlers who are putting on a story for you and whatnot and trying to make it interesting. So,
and I'm okay with, I don't want to say necessarily breaking kayfabe, but it's the fact that, kind of like you said, certain storylines are still, keeping kayfabe, and then others are just like, We'll forget about it. We don't care. It's not a big deal. Fans, they already know it's not, they know it's not real and all that stuff anyway. But here's what I think they need to do. And when I say they, I mean any wrestling company. I think they need to keep kayfabe on TV, like on their normal episodic weekly shows, on their pay-per-views, keep kayfabe. But then if they want to break kayfabe, then just, have them only break kayfabe if they're doing like a network special on a particular wrestler or particular talent. Right. Have them keep kayfabe during their normal weekly episodic shows. Even have them keep kayfabe while they're traveling. Make sure that heels aren't sitting with faces at at restaurants. Right. They're not seen together at the hotel. They're not seen together at the bar. Things like that. Have them keep kayfabe while they're doing even media appearances if they're on a talk show, whatever. And someone alluded to the old school Letterman Lawler, the Lawler Kaufman exchange on Letterman back in the day. That was perfect. no one knew that Kaufman and Lawler were actually friends. I think no one knew until Kaufman had actually passed away, maybe shortly before. I don't really recall, but Shawn says kayfabe has been dead in WWE since they exposed it. Ryan says WWE needs to get rid of all gimmick pay-per-views besides Rumble and Money in the Bank. I hate TLC and Hell in a Cell Extreme Rules. And I thought that comment was going in a different direction. That's why I started it. My short opinion is I disagree. I mean, I like the gimmick pay-per-views as long as they keep them fresh. I hated this past Money in the Bank for the most part. Brian says kayfabe is gone forever. Jesse says the Lana Lashley story was just uncomfortable the whole time. Let's see. Rick says WWE Network killed WWE. I don't agree with that. I'm okay with the specials on the network if they want to break kayfabe, if they want to give more insight into a particular wrestler or a particular talent's personal life and, break kayfabe for those, then fine. But I think that should be the only exception. Any other time, if they're doing media appearances, if it's just their weekly shows, if it's a pay-per-view, if they're traveling, the rest of the time, keep kayfabe. Even on these ride-alongs that they're filming, have heels ride with heels, have faces ride with faces. Make sure your heels are having more of their edgier persona that make them a heel, that kind of thing.
Which they typically have done that on the ride-alongs and stuff like that. They try to do like tag teams or well-known friendships and whatnot. I don't think I would say it killed WWE because I enjoy a lot of the specials and things on the network, especially like the Stone Cold podcast, stuff like that we've seen. Like I enjoy those things. It's just a different product now though, and I think that's what we just got to understand is that they're trying to approach it from a different angle now, since they know that people know that kayfabe's not like a thing really anymore. Like they might as well embrace the fact that people know it.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to pretend like they're still doing something, like pretending like something's real when it's not, and most people are, if not all, are aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to fill you in with the good details. Like I'm loving the Undertaker Last Ride documentary,
mm-hmm.
and you're seeing a lot of the things that like you wouldn't normally have saw 10, 15, 20 years ago.
100%. And someone beat me to it. It was, let's see, Stacy and Cody beat me to it. The first person I was thinking of that hopefully will help revive this, maybe revive the kayfabe aspect of wrestling is MJF. Because number one, I've never seen him do a social media appearance since he's been with AEW, except for, the conventions and he was at C2E2 during Revolution Weekend, but he still kept that persona. Like he was a real, to be quite honest, a-hole with fans, even, kids. And, that's what he needs to do. That's what the world of wrestling needs, is guys like MJF that keep their character, that keep their persona, that, that act the way that they do on TV. That's all it is. And it's that simple. And I don't understand why really the world of wrestling can't just differentiate. This is how they are on TV. This is also how you're going to be during media appearances. You need to make sure that you keep this up while you travel. Because, it's not difficult. The vast majority of, I would venture to guess, the vast majority of people that are friends in the wrestling business, most of them are probably all heels or faces anyway. You're going to have the rare exception, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think that it would be as hard as people think to pull this off. MJF's making it work, and he's making it work great. And I don't see why anyone and everyone else can follow suit. Let's see. Go back to a particular comment I wanted to read. Mark says, wrong. It's a great platform to revisit. It's a great platform to revisit memories and original programming. 100% agree. Someone mentioned the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view with a face palm. I wanted to bring that up because that was awful. Hence the reason they only did it once. Andrew says, MJF reminds me of the Dudleys in ECW. The fans were hip to wrestling being at work, but genuinely disliked the Dudleys and would have visceral hatred for them. Exactly. Steve says MJF is a great heel. Cody, have they declared a winner yet? If you're referring to the belt giveaway, no, we have not. We have not done the belt giveaway yet. Yeah, I mean, Richard says, how about MJF taking a picture with a father and son, giving him the finger? LOL. Talk about keeping kayfabe. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Jeremy says, MJF stayed in character the entire Jericho cruise and threw someone's NXT title in the trash, and even during the meet and greet photos, he didn't even pay attention to the camera. That's a great story. I did not know that. That's fantastic. Awesome. So, all right. Here's what I want to do now, guys. I think we're going to forego the so a lot of times on Thursdays we talk about recaps of NXT and AEW. I think for time's sake we're going to forego that today because I really want to get to our double or nothing predictions, and then we're going to do our belt giveaway as well. We're going to table the discussion of Dark Side of the Ring on Owen Hart for Monday. Cole needs to refresh himself on it, which is fine. We usually save the Dark Side of the Ring until, so it airs on Tuesday. We usually save it for the following Monday anyway, so that works out pretty well. Before we do our double or nothing predictions,
promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Wanted to let you guys know that you can check out the Going Broadway podcast. We have new shows every week on Facebook and YouTube. We are on Apple and Google Podcasts as well. We're a little bit behind on getting those uploaded because of the pandemic, but if you want to check out recent material, check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe. I'm going to move this belt for a second. It's hard to lean forward here. So you can check out our YouTube page at goingbroadwaypodcast.com/YouTube. Please subscribe to that. You can check us out on Facebook. Our link is over there, facebook.com/goingbroadwaypodcast. And then our Twitter handle is below Cole. I didn't see these headphones were in the shot. That's all right. Below Cole's handsome face at goingbrdwy pod. That is also our Instagram handle at goingbrdwy pod. So please subscribe to our YouTube page. Please like our Facebook page. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That is how you will be entered into future giveaways, and I'll go into more about that in a little while. Please also download our free app. It's called Yo Radio. You can download that via the App Store or Google Play. Yo Radio is the most advanced user-driven streaming radio service on the market today. Everything you'd expect and more from the most full-featured platforms ever developed. Listen to an endless genre of music, podcasting, which includes our show via the Lineup channel, sports, news, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's always 100% free. Again, that's Yo Radio, Y-O Radio, available via the App Store, Google Play, or by visiting yoradio.com. You can also check us out on our web host at lineupmedia.fm, which is below our YouTube link. So as far as our future giveaways, we have not decided yet what our next giveaway will be based upon, so to speak. So the one that we're going to be doing later on in the show is based on our first 3,000 Facebook likes. Our next one might be based on our Twitter numbers. It could be based on our Instagram numbers. It could be based on our YouTube numbers. It could be based across all 4 platforms. Who knows? But that's why I would encourage you guys to like our Facebook page, follow our Instagram page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube page. That way you know you're good to go. If there are certain platforms that you do not have, I would encourage you to create one. If anything, if it's just to enter into our giveaways, I'd highly recommend you do it, just because we don't know what our next one is going to be based from. So, we have Lord Alfred Hayes doing our promotional soundbite. Let's see, read some comments real quick. Dave says, "Do you see MJF as the new Flair?" It's very early to tell that, but I mean,
I see him as his own thing.
I do too.
I just don't think you can compare MJF really to anybody, because what he's doing right now is just completely different than most of a heel persona. I mean, it is it is pure. When people say MJF is gold, I get it, because it literally is so rare to see somebody that has the ability to get over as a heel the way he does, especially being as young as he is. To just have that instant know-how of just being the guy to hate, and not like Baron. We've talked about Baron Corbin hate. He's not the kind of guy that get like go away heat. He's the kind of guy that's like, getting actual legitimate heat.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think
agree.
you can compare him to a great of the past or even someone currently in the product.
Jeremy says MJF is closer to a Mr. Perfect. Again, I can see the analogy, but I think MJF, like Cole said, I think he's kind of his own guy, which is great. I mean, you can kind of bring flavors in from prior wrestlers, from again Mr. Perfect, Ric Flair, cockiness of Rick Rude kind of thing, but MJF is kind of his own. Yeah, Andrew says MJF reminds him of Eddie Gilbert. Same thing, but he's kind of his own persona. He's kind of pulling bits and pieces from all these guys of yesteryear, I'll call it, and he's put it into a package that is it. MJF is going to be a star. I mean, he already is, but give him 5 years. I mean, I hope he stays with AEW and helps to make AEW a success. I think WWE would ruin him, just like they have a lot of guys, and I won't get on that soapbox, but I don't think that. I mean, it's a great question. Don't get me wrong. You can compare MJF to a lot of prior wrestlers. I just think that saying he is this guy or that guy, you can't really say he's one specific prior wrestler. I mean, you can draw similarities, but you draw similarities from probably half a dozen guys.
Right.
I want to answer Shawn's question. So our Instagram link cannot fit on our, I guess I'll call it our video, whatever you call this, just our
outline,
our scene profile, whatever. But our Instagram handle is the same as our Twitter handle. So our Twitter and Instagram are both at Going BRDWI Pod. So you can just do a search for Going Broadway Podcast on any social media platform, and you'll be able to find it. Let's see. Steven says, and I'll get to this question since we're foregoing the recaps. Steven says, what did you think of the promo between Jake and Arn last night? Favorite part of the show, in my opinion. Now, I could be partial because I'm an old school fan, but that was my favorite part of the show. It felt real. Jake Roberts was kind of interrupting Arn, or trying to. He interrupted him once, and then Arn said, don't interrupt me. It felt legit. It felt real. You almost thought for a split second that they were going to kind of have some physical interaction. I know Arn's retired. I know that he's had, health issues, as far as, not health issues, but, he retired because at any given point, a wrong move or just any kind of an accident could paralyze him. But he's since done, one-off physical things. I mean, he's had interaction during the Undertaker Flair match from WrestleMania 18, maybe it was. He's done a couple of indie things where he's given spine busters. He gave a spine buster to Shawn Spears. Yeah. So I don't think it's out of the question that there could be some kind of physical interaction. I mean, Arn even took a shot at Revolution, which from where I was at Revolution live, from where I was sitting, I couldn't get a good look as far as what kind of a shot Arn took, but he sold it well. I mean, really well. Even after the match was over, even as like the promo for the next match was airing, he sold it from the time he left the ring to walking to the back, and it was phenomenal. So.
The only thing I had a problem with the promo last night is one, I don't think legitimately, like, because they're both legends, I think there was that anticipation there and that kind of cool nostalgic thing, but no one really wants to see those two old guys fight each other.
No, they don't want to see a wrestling match, but
the problem I have with this is at the very end, the security did not come out in time. And so at the very end of the promo where Jake flipped the table and it looked like they were supposed to go at each other, like they kind of just stood there in limbo because there was no one to hold them back. And then the security finally got out there.
Oh, it wasn't security, it's referee.
Whatever it was, the people who were supposed to hold them back, then Jake's now like trying to go at him. I'm like, dude, you had like a whole like 30 seconds that you could have went and started swinging at him. And, so I don't know. I think I would have rather it ended with strong promo cutting ends to it instead of like this. It looks like these two grandpas are about to fight each other.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be for an actual match. If they kind of mixed it up a little bit, though, it would be. I'm selfish in saying this, but it would be good for a nostalgia kind of thing. I would like to see it if they kind of had a little scuffle, if they exchanged punches or something like that. But
that's what people wanted when Hogan and Flair did their little team versus team too, right? Like they were hoping there would be that little nostalgic moment or whatever. Which that's fine with me. I just, because both of them are so good on the mic, I would have rather it seemed like it ended with strong promos instead of ending with this like tease of a punch.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it was good. And someone said who won. I actually think Jake was better than Arn last night.
That one's tough. I don't know.
Jake just like when the dude does a promo, he just captures you.
He does, but Arn was really good last night too. I don't know.
He was.
If someone was twisting my arm and said you have to pick, I would probably actually have to disagree with you and say Arn was better. Here's my rationale behind it. Jake was on a couple of occasions he was kind of stumbling over his words. Now it didn't matter because Jake is still Jake. I mean, he still brings this coldness, this attitude to a promo that, you know, it doesn't matter if he stumbles over a couple words or whatever, but there were a couple of occasions that he was stumbling over words, but he also felt like there were a couple of pauses that just seemed like, you know that they had bullet points, but they weren't working from a script. I mean, I'm sure they had bullet points that they wanted to talk about, but the rest of it was just flying off the cuff. Arn Anderson didn't have any of that. If I'm just looking at it from a delivery standpoint, I would say I would give the edge to Arn, but it could be either way. Let's see. Who did the DDT better, Arn or Jake? I'd have to give the edge to Jake only because Arn's finisher was the spine buster. They both had good DDTs, but I mean, Jake's DDT was the DDT back in the day. Jordan asks, who did the spine buster better, Triple H or Arn? Arn, hands down, 100%. Not even close in my opinion. Steven says that was a great spine buster that Arn delivered. The Arn performed at WrestleMania 18. 100% agree. Dustin says Revolution was in my hometown and I was mad I missed it. It was a great event. I mean, to this day, I've actually gone back and, not to get out too much off topic, I've gone back and watched the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, and Kenny Omega tag match probably half a dozen times, and it's just as good every time. We don't necessarily like to put over Dave Meltzer or anything like that. I mean, I'm kind of just indifferent when it comes to Dave Meltzer, but him giving that a six-star rating, probably pretty accurate. I mean, I might give it a quarter of a point higher or lower, but it was a great match. And to watch it live, it was phenomenal. Let's see. Steven says Archer should have come down and hurt Arn, then Cody comes down for the save. No.
I liked the clean.
I do too.
Promo between the two, coach versus coach in a sense, kind of mentality.
Yeah. Lynn says, who is the mystery man in the ladder match? I will get to my theories whenever we do our recaps here in a couple minutes. Let's see.
Yes, NXT was on last night, Rick.
Yeah. Once again, guys, I just want to reiterate, please keep our comment thread clean. Please keep it free of any kind of vulgarness or free of language. I'd appreciate it. Dustin says Jake seemed lost at some points. There was one or two spots where it was kind of a, I don't want to say he paused, but it was just kind of a brief enough to notice pause that it was like, you could tell he was trying to, think off the cuff. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not ripping on them, but the older you get, it's easier to forget things. I mean, I'm 35 and I forget stuff a lot. I can't imagine trying to deliver a promo in your 50s or 60s. So, I mean, I couldn't do it. Tip of the cap to both of them. It's still my favorite part of the show, regardless of who did the better promo. Let's see. Okay, so let's just get to our recaps, or not our predictions. I'm sorry, I'm used to saying recaps on our Wednesday show. All right, so
Wednesday. Whoa.
Thursday.
We have
Thursday.
a Wednesday show now.
See, case in point. Case in point. I'm 35. It's easy to forget things.
My goodness.
My days have been so mixed up because I usually don't come into the office/studio on a Wednesday, and I was here yesterday, and so my days for this week are just completely out the window. I mean, it's not even funny. Like, anyway. All right, so Double or Nothing is this upcoming Saturday. Did I say that right? Double or Nothing is this upcoming Saturday.
Yes, you got it.
All right, so in my opinion, it's a pretty stacked card. I mean, going into Dynamite last night, I thought it was pretty good as it was, but then they added one match for sure, maybe two. Maybe it was just they only added one match. I think the rest of them were already booked. So on the pre-show, we're going to have Private Party against Best Friends for the number one contendership for the AEW Tag Team titles. My prediction is pretty simple. If you go and watch the Being the Elite series, again, I always look for an excuse to play any soundbite when I can. If you go and watch the Being the Elite series, they've kind of teased this feud with Private Party and Hangman Page. I mean, really, so for that reason, I think Private Party gets the win here. For that reason and that reason alone. And that's why I like Being the Elite. They kind of tease, I'll call it alternate feuds while the pandemic is going on. So it gives them kind of an added platform to push storylines, bring new things into the picture. So Private Party.
I'm on the other end. I'm going to go Best Friends.
All right.
Best Friends have had a great push here recently. They've been actually kind of the highlight, in my opinion, of the COVID-19 shows. Trent's put on some great singles matches. Chuck Taylor's put on some great singles matches. They put on some great tag matches. They are sold on Best Friends. Even Orange Cassidy has stepped up a lot here during the COVID mess and has fought several singles matches when he was barely ever getting a match before that. Which,
by the way, that was probably my match of the night. Last night was Orange Cassidy and Ray Phoenix. Phoenix took a nasty looking bump at the end of
That thing was crazy, though. What he did, even if he didn't land up back first on that thing, that was something I've never seen before. That was a crazy move. So, but yeah, back to the original point, I would say Best Friends is my pick, because I think that they should, if anyone's going to be tag champions over what we have right now, to give it more of an essence, since Hangman Page hasn't really been on TV and stuff, I would say it needs to be Best Friends.
And to be quite honest, I mean, that's probably one of the harder ones to pick, even with the teasing of the Hangman Page and Private Party thing on Being the Elite. But I'm trying to picture how they can build towards a Hangman Page, Kenny Omega against Best Friends, and I'm looking at it from that perspective. I mean, I'm sure they could do it, but I don't know. You've already had a Kenny Omega and
Trent.
Was it Trent?
Yeah.
Or was it Chuck Taylor?
I'm pretty sure Kenny and Trent went at each other.
Well, regardless of whichever one it was, and you know what, I'm just going to look it up real quick. But Kenny Omega and whichever one it was, I'm looking it up right now. Give me just a second.
Pretty sure it was Trent, because him and Kenny put on a pretty good match.
That's what I was getting to. Whichever one it was, that's been the best match since this pandemic started. So it was. Come on, computer. So it was Trent. So Kenny Omega and Trent had a match on the March 26th episode of Dynamite. To me, that's been, in my opinion, across all wrestling organizations, that's been the best match of the pandemic. And I know it sounds goofy phrasing it that way, but I mean, it was a great match. So you've already had a Kenny Omega and Trent match, and actually, did Kenny Omega wrestle Chuck Taylor?
I don't think him and Chuck fought each other.
I'm thinking of Chuck Taylor against. Did Chuck Taylor wrestle Orange Cassidy? It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm more so thinking in the long term, and I think they'd have a better opportunity to have a private party feud, private party tag title feud with Omega and Page, just because of this thing that they've teased on being the Elite. I know that they're kind of doing a private party comedic thing on being the Elite as well, but they're trying to integrate Hangman Page into it, and so I don't know. We'll see. Even that,
they like to keep a lot of balls in the air too, so it is really hard to predict kind of where they're going, which is a good thing. It keeps you on your toes. But yeah, like I said, I get your point, and if it happens, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense. I mean, it'll make sense either way.
The booking is there for best friends.
And Jesse brings up Sammy Golf Cart amazing bump. 100% agreed. I like how they already thrown it into the Dynamite signature to start the show, like their it
was a good new
their trailer.
Like they had a whole new signature.
Well, they change it every week now. Like they'll add and take away stuff.
It was good last time.
All right, so let's see. Which one do we want to look at next? I'll just go from bottom to top. So we've got Dustin Rhodes and Shawn Spears. This is a tough one, too, only because Shawn Spears, I feel like, has taken a lot of losses, and it's hard to see Dustin Rhodes, unfortunately, winning this, because I see him as being in the position of wanting to put new guys over, or newer guys. I mean, I know Shawn Spears has been around the wrestling business for a while, but Shawn Spears has taken a lot of L's, and I don't know how you would build off of this if Dustin Rhodes gets the win. So my pick for this one would be Shawn Spears.
Now, before I get my answer, did I hear wrong last night, or did one of the announcers say that this had Dustin's career on the line, though? Because I felt like it would have shown up in the match stipulation if it did, but I swear last night when I was watching, maybe they said he just had a match where he put his career on the line and he won, but I swear they said last night that this had Dustin's career on the line. If his career is not on the line, it makes my decision a lot easier, but I can't find anything that says that that's the stipulation. So
I think they were just teasing that he needed to retire or did retire during that promo. I'll be honest, I kind of fast-forwarded through a lot of it just for time's sake. Just because I didn't watch it live. I was kind of in a hurry to get through the episode, and so I watched some of it, not all of it. I kind of fast forwarded through like a minute or two of it.
If anyone else watched this, and if you can remember if that was something that they said, I don't remember. I can't remember clearly if that's what they said. Either way, I feel like it's not his last match. I don't think that that's how they would do it if it was going to be his last match, which is why I'm going to go Shawn Spears. One, because it looks like they have been having him in a pretty prominent TV role here recently. Like they keep kind of showing him on TV, kind of teasing different storylines and having him get involved and stuff. So I think he needs to win, and I think it would build towards maybe a mid-card storyline at some point. Mm-hmm. And at some point, they're still looking to put him in a tag team, I think, with somebody. I just don't know who yet.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, after we do our recap, we're going to do our belt giveaway. So I'd say in about 10, 15 minutes, we're going to do our belt giveaway. So if you want to let your Facebook friends, let your social media friends know, please share our video. Let them know that we're going to be doing this giveaway in about 10 or 15 minutes. If they want to jump on here and join us and see if they might win a belt, let them know. And actually, just in general, please share our pages with your friends and the groups that you're in. I know a lot of guys join different belt groups and wrestling groups and things like that. So whenever you can, however you can, please share us with your friends and in your groups. So again, give us about 10 or 15 more minutes. We'll finish this recap, and then we're going to do our belt giveaway shortly. Which one do I want to tackle next? How about Britt Baker and Chris Statlander?
That's tough. I'm gonna go Britt Baker. Just
same here.
From the standpoint of they obviously want her in a title match at some point. I like Chris Statlander. I think she's talented, but I don't think she's gotten enough TV time and really enough promo time to sell her to me that she could be the face of the women's division and that, she could potentially win the belt. I think it's got to be Britt Baker just from the promos, just from the extreme push that she's gotten. The only reason why I could see Chris Statlander winning is if Brandy comes out and kind of pays back a visit to Britt Baker for the DDT that was laid out on her.
That's true, and I didn't think of that. That might actually change my answer a little bit.
I'm still going Britt Baker.
Yeah, I am too.
But I think that would be the only thing that would swerve me would be the fact that we have not seen a resolution or a comeback from Brandy on the DDT that happened to her.
Yeah. Now Jesse makes a good point. Did Britt get hurt last night? That looked bad. I don't know. I mean, if she didn't get hurt, she sold that well.
I don't think so because that match was not on the card until after the Fatal 4-Way last night. So I have a hard time believing they would have announced that match.
That was the one match that they added.
If they weren't sold that she was okay.
Yeah. And it could have been just, a quick stinger, as they call it. It could just been for all we know, I mean, it could have just been like a lower thigh cramp by the knee. I mean, I'll get those every so often, and those things hurt, man. I mean, they don't feel good at all. But yeah, she did get carried out. But again, it could have just been playing into the selling it. By the way, guys, if you share this with your friends, it's not going to decrease your chances of winning. This is just for our first 3,000 Facebook likes. So if you share this, everyone still has an equal chance of winning if you are one of our first 3,000 Facebook likes. So don't not share it just because of that. Because to be quite honest, that logic, it doesn't make sense. So, okay, so we both said Britt Baker on that one. Let's tackle. Okay, I'll tell you what. This one will be quick. MJF and Jungle Boy.
It's not quick for me.
Really? It's MJF for me. I mean, I don't know.
I'm gonna go MJF, but I want to say Jungle Boy, and the reason why is that Jungle Boy just every match I watch him in, especially singles matches. Actually, even though he's predominantly kind of in the tag team division, every singles match he's been in, he's killed it. And I just want to see a reward there, but I just don't think you can have him beat MJF on the build that they have MJF on currently. But I'm the guy that likes to swerve. So it wouldn't shock me if he gets a surprise win. But I think it has to go to MJF.
Yeah, I think they're really trying to build towards an MJF push. What I still find interesting is, and I'm not going to get off on this soapbox for too long. I said on Monday's show that I read that they want to push Darby Allin as Jon Moxley's next title contender. I think it's too early to do that. I think his next challenger needs to be MJF, unless they want to continue the MJF storyline with Cody, maybe over the TNT title. But at this point, I mean, MJF, I think, is the closest thing AEW has to a legit heel that's new, that's fresh. I don't think it's even close that they need to push towards this AEW, to the AEW title picture if they want a heel to take it off Moxley.
Andrew makes a good point. He says, I could see it going either way because MJF can get over in a loss and it could make him go loonier. That's my thing is that MJF can take an L and it not hurt him, where I feel like Jungle Boy kind of plays in that back and forth, get a win, get an L, get a win, get an L kind of mentality, which is why it's so hard for me because MJF is so good that I think he's safe no matter what. He'd have to take several L's in a row, but I still think at a pay-per-view it goes to MJF.
And I just think
for that purpose.
I just think that if you have MJF lose, I think it'll, like you said, it'll be a fluky kind of roll up, and then Jungle Boy will get beat down at the end of the match. You might have a schmoz with Jungle Express and MJF and Wardlow. I'm surprised we don't have a Wardlow Luchasaurus match.
They've been teasing that. They're saving that for some reason.
Well, I think I think Wardlow's going to cost Luchasaurus in some way, shape, or form during that ladder match. Which I'll tell you what, we'll just look at that one next. And this is going to be a tough one because there is there's a wrestler who has yet to be announced. So we've got Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Rey Fenix, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian versus Luchasaurus, and to be announced for the Casino Ladder match for future AEW World Title match.
Do you want to start by guessing who the mystery person is, or do you just want to say?
Let's throw out mystery. Let's throw out mystery opponents first.
Rusev. Rusev.
I think if they're leaving it such a mystery that they are really kind of pushing this mystery opponent. I don't see it. I know someone on the thread said Drew Gulak.
He's got a 90-day non-compete clause.
No, he doesn't.
I'm pretty sure
he does not. Drew Gulak's contract expired. He does not have he's free to go wherever, anytime he wants. So
I still don't see him being the guy.
I don't either, though. But he is free to go wherever he wants. Someone said Enzo. I hope to the good Lord above that
no one's
not
signing
Enzo.
him, guys. Nobody is. The only place Enzo will go is WWE, and that's if they decide that they want to try the Enzo big cast thing again, because it did make them money. But nobody's signing that dude, guys.
So someone said Tama Tonga. That's only if I know they've kind of teased his, feuding with guys in AEW on Twitter, but that's against guys like Cody and Kenny Omega and the Elite. He has nothing to do with any of these guys. So I'm ruling him out. I'm ruling Drew Gulak out. The only two that make sense, if they're wanting it to be a bigger type name, is it'd have to be Rusev. Unfortunately, I hate to admit this because I'm not really a big. I don't want to say I'm not a fan of his. I just never have gotten into him. Is EC3, but
is Zack Ryder still under his 90-day non-compete, right?
That I believe so because he was released. I'm pretty sure that those guys can't go anywhere until their 90 days.
Wouldn't
up.
EC3 fall into that same category then? He was released at the same time.
He was released. Okay, that's a great point. Jason says this would be I would pop so hard for this. And now I get that he doesn't really have any kind of a I don't want to say what's the word I'm looking for. He doesn't really have any kind of a sorry for the lights, guys. He's more associated with guys like the Elite and whatnot. But someone said Marty Scurll. That would be fantastic. I don't see it happening. That would be a great surprise. Someone said Jeff Cobb. I don't know if someone says Heath Slater. Ultimately, I think it would be Rusev. So
Rusev doesn't have a non-compete because Rusev didn't get released. He was in contract negotiations.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well, that he was in contract negotiations.
And didn't resign.
Yeah.
The rest of them, so far, everyone that has pretty much said anybody that was released, like someone said Rowan, all those guys were released, and I'm pretty sure majority, maybe one of them had contracts that had a 90-day no-compete. Rusev, someone said that he was released. I don't think they might have said he was released, but he was in contract negotiations.
Oh, yes.
Sorry,
go ahead. I'll say what I'm going to say in a second.
I do, however, like the Brian Cage guest because we were rumored that he could have signed. We haven't seen him yet.
He's not been around for a while.
He hasn't been on really anybody's promotion. So the Brian Cage actually is a very intriguing one because I like Brian Cage. He's a decent name to sign. You're cheesing over the Jay Lethal.
I am. That would be fantastic.
Jay Lethal would be great, but I don't think he's a guy that you need to put in the casino ladder match to bring in for the pop, because I think.
I would though.
I think he could get a better pop in a different way. Brian Cage, I think, would benefit from a casino ladder match pop. The only reason why I think Rusev would benefit from it is because we've had a lot of the big stars who have transferred over have very lackluster pops. With Matt Hardy and Brody Lee, like they got it during the pandemic, so there wasn't this like, oh my goodness, it's this person pop. So
I'll tell you what, though, if it's Jay Lethal, they need to have the pomp and circumstance intro with him being as Black Machismo. I mean, that's probably the most underrated gimmick that I've seen in wrestling. During All Out in 2018, like I was watching with some friends at the time. I was just like popped so hard from just watching that in my living room, and because he was on the card, but you didn't expect him to come out as Black Machismo. So it was a cool little thing for me.
Someone keeps saying Austin Aries. I don't think so. It won't be Scott Dawson or Dash. They'll save that for a tag. They might come in and interfere with like a private party or one of those matches.
They could make their presence known in that the number one contenders match, and it could just end in a.
Or they could make themselves known in that Stampede match, even.
Very true.
Where there's a lot of moving pieces going on. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that you could say. Rey Mysterio is definitely not one. He's still under contract.
Mike Bennett, Matt Cross, Santino Marella.
No, I think for me, Rusev is a hot commodity, and they pretty much said he was signed without saying he was signed.
Whoever it is, it won't be just a one-off appearance. Like they will likely be under AEW contract. So.
Especially since this is for a number one contender spot for the main belt. If you look at the guys that are in that match, majority of them are not guys who should be in that conversation right now.
Okay.
Not being disrespectful to them, because a lot of them are talented, but I mean 90% of them are not title ready.
Agreed. Okay, so what's your prediction for the winner? Who do you think?
Oh man, so it's hard because we don't know who that mystery person is.
So we'll just say if mystery person is your prediction, we'll just say mystery person. We'll just leave it at that.
I'm going to predict it like this. If the mystery person is not a huge name, like the other thing is I have a hard time saying that the mystery person should come in right off the bat and get a title shot.
Agreed.
On their first appearance. So I don't think the mystery person is going to win this match. But I think the mystery person is probably Rusev. And I think the winner of this match, it's so hard because
it really is.
A lot of them. I know Darby Allin is kind of the hot commodity right now, and I think he would be a lot of people's favorite to win. So he stands out to me. Rey Fenix stands out to me though too. It's so hard. I just don't.
I'll just tell you mine. I think it's going to be Darby Allin.
I like Darby, and the thing about Darby though is that we've seen it already.
No, I agree. I just think that based on that rumor that was out that they're going to push him to the title picture, I think this is how they're going to do it. I'm not saying he's inevitably going to win the AEW title. I think that this is just going to be AEW's way to thrust him into the title picture. If that article that I read, if there was any credibility to it. Now here, I'm looking at it from another perspective. I don't think it's going to be Colt Cabana. I'm kind of doing this by process of elimination. I don't think it's going to be
Colt or Orange.
I don't think it's going to be those two. I don't think it's Rey Fenix. Now, I could get the logic because if Pentagon Jr. cannot compete just because he's in Mexico City with the travel restrictions and everything, that they might put Rey Fenix in a singles title picture. I don't think it's the world title picture. Plus, I don't know how his style would mesh with Moxley in the ring. So I don't think it's Rey Fenix.
Not Kazarian.
I don't think it's Kazarian or Scorpio Sky. I think they're going to keep them as a tag team. Kip Sabian, I don't think so. Luchasaurus, I don't think it's going to be Luchasaurus either. Because inevitably, I think Wardlow plays a factor in this match, and I think he costs Luchasaurus in some way, shape, or form the match. So by process of elimination, I think it's either going to be the mystery guy or it's going to be Darby Allin.
I'm going to be different. I'm going to go with the mystery guy just because...
Okay.
I don't know who it is specifically, but I know that it's going to be somebody. They wouldn't keep it a mystery. They wouldn't announce a mystery person and then keep it a mystery. If they were going to have an extra person it wasn't going to be a big shock value, they would just have them come out for the match.
Now, Jason makes a good point. It could be somebody that's already on the AEW roster. They're saying it could be Pentagon Jr. It could be Pac.
Pac could be interesting. He did cut a really phenomenal promo last night.
I think it would be very disappointing though to have the mystery opponent be someone that's already on the AEW roster.
Not Ryback. My god. Not
no.
CM Punk. Like
we've got Doc Gallows, we've got Carl Anderson, Booker T. I don't think it's going to be a one-off guy.
It has to be someone who's going to be in a prominent role. And
it's going to be somebody that's staying with the company.
I could probably put together like a top 3 of guys that they've been in talks with that would make sense, and Rusev and Brian Cage would definitely fall under that. We did get the Jeff Cobb kind of tease a little while back, so it wouldn't shock me if Jeff Cobb was in that conversation. But to me, I think it really just falls to Ryback, or not Ryback, because someone just said that, Rusev or Brian Cage.
Now, Matthew makes a good point. Wardlow hasn't been booked on the show either. Could he? So he could be the mystery opponent. But again, I'd hate that. I would too. I'd be disappointed if the mystery opponent is anyone that's currently on the roster, because if it's anyone that's on the roster, just say it. If it's Wardlow, he's in the match. If it's Pac, he's in the match. If it's Pentagon Jr., he's in the match. Let's see.
Yes, I will turn heel if you mention CM Punk's name. That is, I will, because it's clear the dude's not going to wrestle.
Steve says Davey Boy Smith. I'm assuming you mean Davey Boy Smith Jr. There's a lot of possibilities. So, we'll see. But you picked the mystery opponent. I picked Darby Allin. Okay, let's move to another. Let's see. We did that one. Let's talk about Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's title.
Now, with the stipulation, it's a no disqualification,
which I love.
No count out. So I think it's going to be actually a really good match. It's hard because the problem is Nyla Rose has not really had a lot of title defenses. She's had, 2 maybe? At most, one on AEW and one at a pay-per-view.
3 at the 3 at the very most. Against Statlander, I think she's had 3.
I think she's had a very lackluster title run. There's really nobody to put her up against that is believable that they actually would win in a fair fight.
Mm-hmm.
And for the sake of the women's division, I gotta go Shida, and because of the stipulations.
I do too. I think this is how you take the belt off of her and not make it look as
believable-ish.
Yeah,
just like a clean pin or a clean victory. I wouldn't shock me if Nyla keeps the belt.
Same.
But personal desire would be for Shida to win it and have a Shida versus Britt Baker storyline. Because they want Britt Baker in the title picture, but you don't put Britt up against Nyla. It just doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely not.
And Nyla can go and be a demolition derby attraction without the belt. She doesn't necessarily need that. I think Shida needs this belt to really solidify her greatness, because she kills it.
Well, especially since Shida took the L last night. She took the pin against Nyla Rose, so it almost feels like if Shida takes another loss on Saturday, I don't want to say it feels like she's being buried, because that's not the case, but I think it would be I can't think of the right word, but
it definitely decreases her value.
Exactly.
In a sense, not to mention she's been the number 1 contender for like months now. Yet they've had her and they've had other people in the title picture over her time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just kind of like, okay, she's been in the title picture. You guys are obviously sold on her. Let's get the title on her. And I think this is the opportunity that, they kind of tried to do this with Riho. And I told you, I wasn't really sold on Riho as the first women's champion. I don't dislike her, but I wasn't sold that she was the girl. I think Shida's the girl that you can that can be kind of a New Japan type star that came in and takes over the women's division and puts it on the map.
Right. Okay, let's look at tell you what, let's just look at the AEW TNT title match. Cody against Lance Archer. We've already both said that we think it needs to be Cody if they want to bring legitimacy if they want to bring legitimacy to this title. They need to do what they did with the AEW World title and put it on someone of prominence like Cody. I think Lance Archer still needs to prove himself in the ring. I mean, if he was pretty good in the ring in New Japan, but ever since he's come over to AEW, it just seems like his in-ring work has taken a step back compared to New Japan. He's got stuff to work on. Now, I'm sure that pairing him with Jake Roberts on camera and behind the scenes has probably boosted his confidence some. But I think if they put the belt on Lance Archer, it's going to feel lackluster right off the bat as opposed to if you put it on Cody.
Not to mention, this match needs to be a clean match. No I don't mind the Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson stuff, like if they kind of butt heads or whatever, but no outside interferences. We don't need an MJF coming out.
Agreed.
We don't need some surprise another new superstar to go after Cody.
Cody's in enough feuds as it is.
This needs to be a clean, whoever wins, whether if they decide to go Lance Archer, cool, whatever. But this needs to be a clean match, and this is why I say Cody needs to win. Cody needs to win in a clean match over Lance Archer to not only give the TNT title some meaning, in my opinion, but to reestablish Cody as a guy who you actually should fear, and whatnot. Because I think we just kind of give Cody Rhodes like almost the Triple H treatment, like he's the suit guy. He's the guy behind the scenes, and he doesn't need the wins and losses. But if you want him to be in the ring and sell matches, he needs wins. You can't just keep having him take the big L at every single major pay-per-view, having him take the big L in every feud that at the climax of it. And this feud does not have to be over after this match.
No, not at all.
Him and Lance don't have to be done. We don't have to quit that feud. Put the belt on Cody and then let him feud for a little bit. That's fine with me. But I just think that it has to go to Cody with all the swerves that they get, with the Chris Jericho swerve, then the MJF match. Like, he's had a lot of big match losses, and I think this needs to be where Cody gets the belt. It's time for some of these key cognate pieces of the elite to start actually running the show belt-wise. Let's give a little value to you put the belts on Hangman Page and Kenny. That was smart. You used Chris Jericho and John Moxley as your main guys. That's smart. Let's put the TNT title on somebody smart to start with, and then let's build some of these indie guys, some of these guys who have come in up to take those belts and now run with this promotion.
Yeah, and a lot of people have hinted at this. I do think Mike Tyson gets involved in some way, shape, or form. Some think that he'll favor Cody. Some think he'll favor Lance.
Tyson has a heel vibe to him, in my opinion. I just feel like he might come out looking like he's going to be with Cody.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see. But ultimately, I'll be shocked and also disappointed if they put it on Lance Archer as their first champion because, again, I think they want to bring legitimacy to it. Long term, yes, they want to build new stars, but build new stars by having these new stars take the titles off your established guys. That's why I didn't have a problem with Jericho winning the AEW World title as their first champion. And, I get that, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky weren't as big of names winning the tag team titles, but they'd been around the wrestling business for quite a while. And so those that had kind of followed Ring of Honor and with Kazarian's case had followed TNA/Impact, they were already familiar with them. I know that Lance Archer has been around for a while, but he was in New Japan for the longest time. I mean, he was Lance Hoyt for a cup of coffee in WWE, but that was really it ever since he's been in New Japan. So,
right.
And not to mention, Lance Archer's still got some work to do in the ring. I don't know if it's just a style that he's trying to evolve to when it comes to American wrestling, so to speak, versus wrestling in Japan. I don't know. I don't know if it's a mental block, but he's still got some work to do, in my opinion. Let's see. We've got. Let's just look at the AEW World Title next. Which, by the way, I highly disagree with this being the main event. I respect the fact that they want their world title to be the main event match. 9 times out of 10, I'd be all for that. I just feel like this doesn't have as much of a luster as the Stadium Stampede match, but we'll get to that. The AEW World Title match, I think it stays on Moxley. I'd be shocked if they put the belt on Brody Lee.
So this was a huge swerve for me because I was shocked that they went this route to begin with, because I thought the Brody Lee Dark Order thing still needed to have a slow build to it. I was kind of liking the idea of Brody Lee just kind of running through the roster a little bit. The fact that he's in this match tells me that they're really sold on this Dark Order gimmick, though. Like, they are just sold on him. And the only thing that brings confusion to me in this match is that I felt like so far Jon Moxley's title run has been very lackluster. I don't know if that's due to the COVID-19 pandemic thing. I don't know. Does Jon Moxley need a crowd to be exciting? You know, is that part of it? Because so far there hasn't, and you and I have talked about this, there hasn't really been a match since Jon Moxley has been champion that I was like, wow. You know, like that blew my mind. So far, all the matches have been like, cool. Like at
best, yeah.
It's just been like, okay, I could see that. So I get why people would just automatically go, it should be Moxley. But it's really hard for me to say that because it just seems like they like this Brody Lee gimmick. I am going to go Jon Moxley, though. I think that during the pandemic, you leave it on him, and we save a title change and a huge feud for whoever it is going to be for that, for when we have fans back.
Brian says, Marco Stunt versus Mox, LOL.
For what?
Well, I don't know.
A dark match?
For a hot dog eating contest? I mean, no, I'm just playing. So I while you were talking, I pulled up this article, multiple injuries on last night's AEW Dynamite. So it says last night's go-home edition of AEW Dynamite saw 3 big stars potentially sustain injury. So, no surprise, Rey Fenix, after defeating Orange Cassidy in singles action, was involved in a post-match scuffle to set up Saturday's #1 contender ladder match. He went for that top rope move, but didn't get as much distance jumping off the ropes and was not properly caught by the group beneath him. He collided hard on the arena floor and remained down for the remainder of the segment, but he did leave on his own power. Britt Baker, again, no surprise, dealing with a knee injury after having Nyla Rose slammed on her during her tag match against Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. As soon as the spot happened, Baker was taken to the corner and checked on by doctors. The other one, and I mean, there was no way to catch this, I don't think. Matt Jackson was said to have banged up his ribs on a dive executed during the brawl with Inner Circle during the closing moments of the show. Reports are that he may even have potentially broken a rib or torn some cartilage. As of now, all 3 stars are still set to work Saturday's Double or Nothing pay-per-view at this time. However, AEW has yet to issue an official update. While Jackson and Phoenix are more likely to compete, reports are that Baker could have blown out her knee, and her scheduled match against Statlander is up in the air. So, it brings meaning to the term card subject to change, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does. So, back to...
Well, if Britt Baker's not in that match, Chris Statlander wins. Whoever they decide to put her up against, they'll probably put a filler in there, someone to fill that match. Because I don't see them taking it off the air or off the card. So whoever Chris Statlander fights against at that point, I would say,
yeah,
whether it's Penelope Ford or Leva Bates or someone like that, I think Chris Statlander wins.
All right, so back to our predictions, and I think the last match we have to predict is the Stadium Stampede match, the Elite and Matt Hardy against the Inner Circle. I think at this point, it's time to put over the Elite. And then off to the races you go with, resuming the Hangman and Kenny tag title run, inevitably Hangman turning on Kenny, which they kind of teased at Revolution, but then they kind of had to drop it with the pandemic. I mean, literally, you had Revolution, you had one more live Dynamite show, and then that was it. So I think they go back to that. I kind of hope they go back to that. But there's a lot of, like Cole said, there's a lot of moving parts. You could have multiple, you could have heel turns in any direction. You could have interference from FTR, Revolt, Revival, whatever they're going to call themselves. I don't know. I still think the Elite wins. That's my prediction.
Oh, this is tough. So you could go two ways with this.
Oh, you could go multiple ways with this.
Well, specifically where I'm headed, I could see this being where Hangman and Kenny break up.
Oh, you could think the heel turn happens during the match.
I could see that the match gets so, because there's the Matt Jackson and Hangman that never really got squashed.
Right.
They just kind of suddenly were there for each other last night. So I could see tempers flaring within this match. Maybe Hangman getting out of control and Matt trying to stop him or whatever. I could see those kind of things happening. Ultimately, I could see FTR getting involved, even they're just in the stands of the Dome, kind of being a distraction, whatever, because we've been teased with the Young Bucks FTR feud.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great feud where the Young Bucks don't have to be involved in the tag title picture to keep things strong. Would be a great first feud for the Revolt coming in. So I could see that being a thing. I hate to say this.
You're going to go Inner Circle, aren't you?
Inner Circle is going to win this match, guys. And the reason why, one, Inner Circle, people are saying that Chris Jericho is going to go away here soon because of concerts. Not until this stuff clears up. Most concerts are still being canceled and being rescheduled almost for next year at this point.
Well, and here's the situation. Even if the concerts were still scheduled, which they're not. I mean, like Cole said, during this pandemic, stuff has just been canceled, rescheduled, whatever. Jericho's concerts with Fozzy were, and I said this on a prior show, his concerts were set up to where Jericho would not actually have to miss any Dynamite shows. He would not have to miss any pay-per-views. So
I could see him taking a step back from wrestling and maybe just being the voice of the Inner Circle and letting them do more matches.
Oh yeah, I mean, he might not
preserve himself a little bit.
He might not wrestle, but he
would be cutting a promo.
Exactly.
He would be out there and involved. But I think one, they've been a huge, especially Jericho, has been a huge part of keeping AEW going during this dead time.
Right.
He's been killing it on commentary when he's on there. Their Inner Circle, the Bubbly Bunch gimmicks have been
which has been
hilarious.
Been
They have set trends all over social media. They are absolutely sold on this Inner Circle gimmick, which I get it because they are killing it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's going to be a great match. There's a lot of talented wrestlers in this match.
They're going to be keeping cameramen busy during that match, though.
It's going to be great. But I think ultimately the Inner Circle gets this win due to the fact that the Elite are going to implode from the inside. Distractions, heated heads, the young Matt Hardy. The only reason why I think the Elite would win because they don't want Matt Hardy to take an L. But I think they could do that without Matt Hardy getting hurt in this match. Matt Hardy also is probably going to be changing gimmicks throughout the match,
yeah.
Which could be a reason why they lose. Because Matt Hardy could change into a gimmick or be in gimmick changes where he's not focused on the end result.
True. I mean, it's a great point.
So I think they're going to go Inner Circle on this. And maybe set up for just a Jericho Matt Hardy feud going forward still.
Could be. One way or another, though, I do agree with a lot of the people commenting that Revival, Revolt, FTR, whatever, in some way, shape, or form make their debut during this pay-per-view.
This is they're like what, second biggest pay-per-view, biggest pay-per-view, one of the top
Double
two?
or Nothing is, I think they're saying that this is supposed to be kind of like it's not, I don't think it's supposed to be their biggest,
like their SummerSlam,
kind of like their SummerSlam Survivor Series kind of thing.
This is going to be where you see, like, if you're going to introduce new people, if you're going to go big or go home, this is where FTR needs to come out. If you have Rusev, this is where Rusev needs to come out. If you have Brian Cage, like if you have these guys waiting in the wings to get their debut, this is where you do it. And I would be more than okay if you debut 3 or 4 new guys in different matches or different ways, as long as it's not the exact same way in every match.
Agreed.
But I would be more than okay with them having these guys make their presence known at least. in different forms and facets throughout this pay-per-view, because this is where you do it.
Steven says, which match closes the show? They announced last night that the AEW World Title match is going to be the main event.
It makes sense because the other match is at a different location, right? The Stampede matches.
Yeah.
I'm almost curious if they're going to shoot that kind of how WWE's been shooting their cinematic ones. I'm curious to see what the camera views, because I'm assuming it's got to be a pre-recorded match.
No, I think it's going to be live.
Do you think they're going to go live from 2 locations?
Probably.
And just switch up?
I've not seen anything that says that this is not going to be live. I mean,
that's interesting, too, that they're not closing the show with that, and they're going to switch back from 2 live feeds twice. You know, they're going to go live here, live back here, live here again.
And that kind of makes me wonder if, they said it's going to be their main event, but it could have just been could have just been a gaffe on. I think Jim Ross is the one that said it. It could have just been a gaffe on his part, and maybe this does close the show. I think it would make more sense for this to close the show. I get the mentality of your world title is your biggest prize in your company, but at the same time, it's a rather lackluster world title match. I mean, nothing against Jon Moxley or Brody Lee, but I mean the star power is just not there as much as if you would have had the Jericho Moxley match at Revolution. If you would have had, who else can you throw in there? If you would have had a Jericho Cody match kind of thing. So, all right, guys, it is time. It is time for a belt giveaway. What you guys have been waiting for. We've still got over 80 people watching us live right now. We sincerely appreciate it. We love hanging out with you guys and going back and forth. Real quick, Steven says, does Cody get involved in this fight? I don't think so.
No, not with the Lance Archer fight. They'll probably make that a very gruesome fight between him and Lance Archer, to the point that that would be the reason why he doesn't show up or get involved if they were to need help.
So, excuse me. So again, guys, we're going to do this in about 2 or 3 minutes. Share us with your friends and on your pages real quick. I do want to go through our quick ground rules, housekeeping, whatever you want to call it. I say this before we do any giveaway. So if you are one of our first 3,000 likes, besides me and Cole, everyone else is eligible to win. That does include our friends of the show, family members, acquaintances, whatever. The only people that are not eligible to win are me and Cole, and that's it. I will only cover the shipping for a winner that is within the domestic United States, so that's roughly about $20. Anything else, any winner that lives internationally, any winner that lives in Alaska, Hawaii, you would have to cover the shipping costs above and beyond that $20. I think it's like $21 and change for shipping within the United States. All past winners of belt giveaways and t-shirt giveaways, they're still eligible to win as well. Just because you win once, that does not mean you can't win again. It is a random drawing. I've got a randomizer here that I'm going to use. It's got all 3,000 names in it, and everyone's got an equal chance of winning. If you're not one of our first 3,000, like I've said before, please like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube page, because our next giveaway, we're not sure what it's going to be based on from yet. It could be based across all 4. It could just be one of the 4. We don't know yet, but I would encourage you guys to, across all platforms, like, follow, and subscribe. Did I cover everything?
Yes.
I think so. No, I didn't. The winner has up to 24 hours to respond to me from the time I private message them. If they do not respond to me within 24 hours, so, it's about a little before 11 o'clock my time. So by the time we get off the air and then I message the winner, if they don't message me by about, I would say 11:05, 11:10 tomorrow morning, we're going to do another drawing on Monday's show. All right, guys, let's do it. So I got to get this pulled up. In just 1 second. Like I said, I apologize. My computer is being a little slower than normal. Come on. Like I said, while I'm getting this pulled up, guys, share this with your friends. Share this in the pages that you're in. Oh, yeah. Lynn makes a great point. Winners do not have to be watching us live to win. That's one thing I did leave out. So, Lynn, thank you for that. Start humming the Doink theme. Come on. Again, I don't like the whole dead air time thing, but this I know, guys. Thanks for being patient. I know you're anxious. I'm hurrying. Okay. Oh, hang on. All right, let's do this, guys. All right, so I'm doing this on 10 clicks. You guys ready? Oh, hang on. All right, here we go. I'm going to bring this microphone down here so you can hear me actually clicking, if it'll stay down here, maybe. All right. So I'm just reading comments. Tyler says, I have no belt to hold my pants up, so I'd appreciate a belt. All right. Good luck to everybody. This is just for our first 3,000 Facebook likes. So Mark says you should be playing the Jeopardy theme. Maybe I should put that on my little soundboard over here. All right. Here we go, guys. We've got... I got it. We're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is going to be our 10th click. The winner on our 10th click is going to be the winner, and it is Stacy Hernacki. I guess I'm pronouncing that name right. So I will contact Stacy Hernacki. It's Stacy Hernacki is our winner. I will contact Stacy, and they have up to 24 hours from the time that I message them to get back to me. And Stacy's here. Stacy, congratulations. So I will be contacting you as soon as we get off the air. Stacy, yes, it is you. Congratulations once again. Guys, I can't say this enough. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the viewership. We started this back in January just as something fun to do, not knowing that it would blow up like this. So, again, sincerely from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate the support, the viewership, following us on our social media pages. I do try to be more active on those as far as responding to people, just posting different things. So, again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. If you are one of our first-time visitors, thanks for tuning in. We're live every Monday and Thursday morning at 9 o'clock Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. It'd be 7 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast. And again, I will contact Stacy in about 5 or 10 minutes once we get off the air and I get stuff organized and whatnot. So once again, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Cole, final thoughts.
Just excited for this weekend. You might hear or see what some of us post about Double or Nothing when it happens, because it's a big night. I think there's going to be a lot of things that happen. So
it's going to be a good weekend of wrestling. I'm excited about it. And that's one thing I like about AEW is that they don't have a pay-per-view every month, so it makes it, gives it more of an expectation. I get that they charge more than, the network does just for as a monthly thing, but you know what? It's whatever at this point. AEW is going to charge what they charge. WWE is going to charge what they charge. So it's going to be a fun weekend. It's going to be a fun Saturday. I'll be watching with Cole and a buddy of ours. It's going to be a fun Saturday. So for Cole, for Alex, myself, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we will catch you guys on Monday.
And so, goodbye. And good night. Bang!
This podcast was a presentation of lightupmedia.fm.